What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Sunday night recap presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Simon, here as always with my co-hosts, Jay, John, Luke, and Josh. What's up, boys?
Ooh, what's happening? Up? Just slapping the bass, man. That song is
that intro.
It's going.
I'm
hard
a
not to
sucker
jam to
for a hard bass line. Gets me going.
Oh, yeah,
and
you are.
Just so everyone knows, if you haven't listened, the next time the Monday Night Football song plays, listen for the bass line. That thing goes hard. You will never listen to this song the same way again, but FanDuel's intro music, the Monday Night Football theme song, they got some hard bass, and we are here now. They both slap so hard. We are here now to recap your Sunday football games from the fantasy perspective. Everyone watching, if you are here, that means you're already on the FanDuel YouTube or Twitch channels. You know the amazing content they put out. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button on YouTube or the follow button on Twitch to make sure you're not missing out on this awesome fantasy content that FanDuel is putting out. And guys, it was the first bye week of the season. It was an injury mayhem heading into this week. I felt like this was the first week where every single fantasy player had to say, you know, I was forced to start. Like, no one didn't say that sentence this week, but we've got a lot to cover today.
Speaking of which, I was forced to start Jamal Williams this week, and I'm not too happy about it. So,
yeah, there were a lot of forced to start. Some of them worked out. Honestly, Jay, you are unlucky because it seems like most of the forced to start running backs actually panned out today.
Story of my season so far.
I mean, if we do just look at the running backs that were plugins for running backs that got hurt in front of them, it was a very good game. Khalil Herbert with a great game. Damian Williams with a great game. Let's see who else.
Devontae Booker had a fine game if you were plugging him in.
Chuba Hubbard had a good game. So, it was a fine plug and play running back kind of week.
0 RB. It works.
Or not plug and play.
Not plug and play. But guys, before we get into the games that have already happened, the first thing I want to do today is go over the Sunday night football game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers that we have coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up on our screen, and we can talk a little bit about what's going on in tonight's Steelers versus Seahawks matchup. Before we do that, though, we got FanDuel in here, and you know what? They're slapping the bass with us.
Slapping the bass. Give it all you got.
Give it all you got. Jolo Truglio. Maria's in here, says, woo, 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 let's go.
Woo, 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 woo.
And we got Kevin here saying, bird up. What's up, Kev? Welcome in. Guys, the Seattle Seahawks versus Pittsburgh Steelers matchup tonight. You know, I feel like we've had some sexier Sunday night football matchups recently that people are excited about, but this should still be a decent game. Josh, do you have the line for this game currently, what it's set at?
I absolutely do. And it's the Pittsburgh Steelers are 4.5-point favorites on the FanDuel Sportsbook. It is a 43.5-point over-under. So not really expecting a ton of scoring.
So Steelers 4.5-point favorites. Before we break down this game, Josh, we'll start with you since you gave us the line. Which side of that line are you taking if you're throwing a bet down on this game? Are you taking Steelers plus 4.5 or minus 4.5 or Seattle plus?
I think the Steelers are going to win this game. I'm concerned about Gina Smith, but I'm not a Steelers fan either. So, you know, I'm probably avoiding this game. I'd rather root for the Seahawks personally, but I think the line, if we're just talking about the line, it's the Steelers for me.
JL, either of you guys have a strong opinion on which side of this line you're landing on?
Well, you said giving 4 points to the Steelers. I say, yeah, I'll take plus 4 for the Steelers. No,
minus 4, minus 4.5.
No, I'm with Josh. There's no world that I'm trusting Geno Smith in.
Yeah. So I think that's the big storyline here with the Seahawks. Russell Wilson on IR, Chris Carson on IR. So we are going to be starting Geno Smith at quarterback, and it's looking like Alex Collins at running back. What are you guys expecting from the Steelers offense, the Seahawks offense tonight? Alex Collins, is he a plug-and-play running back? Josh?
Yes, so Alex Collins, I want to start him in my fantasy leagues tonight. I do like I think if they're going to win this game, it's going to be on the back of their running game. Even though the Steelers' run defense is good and their pass defense isn't so good, I don't have faith in Geno Smith. I'm a little bit nervous about the pass catching options. I'm still starting DK Metcalf, still probably starting Tyler Lockett, but from a DFS standpoint, I'm nervous because their prices are still pretty high.
Pretty high. Oh, what happened there?
How you doing, Simon?
Whoa, hello, Simon.
Hey there,
I didn't click anything.
There,
Somebody suddenly wanted to see how
see
handsome I was. Pretty handsome, right, guys? Put it in the comments how handsome I am.
Put it in the comments.
Everyone's going to come in like ugly as shit, 1 out of 10.
Hot or not.
What would you rather do? Start DJ Dallas or look at me for 5 seconds? Jay.
DJ Dallas.
I choose both.
Yeah. Jail, you can have both. On the Steelers side of the ball, as far as running backs go, this is a no-brainer. You're plugging Najee Harris into your lineup. You're not benching him. I don't know how much more needs to be said about Najee Harris, but where it gets interesting for the Steelers is with their wide receivers this week, with Juju Smith-Schuster going out to season-ending injury. So Deante Johnson and Chase, or not necessarily season-ending. Do we know if it's season-ending?
It is season-ending.
It is season-ending?
Yeah, he's out.
Yes.
Okay. He's out for the whole year. So we've got Deante Johnson and Chase Claypool expected to take a step forward with the wide receiver core being a little bit less deep out there. John Luke, as far as Deante Johnson and Chase Claypool goes, which one of these guys would you prefer to start in your leagues tonight? And what's your general outlook for them going into this game?
Oh, it's Deante Johnson. I think in almost every matchup, it's going to be hard to switch over just to Chase Claypool as the number one option here. He's the clear number 2 to me. Deante Johnson is the number 1. I'd rather have him in this matchup. It's not a particularly tough matchup. Seahawks secondary hasn't been great covering wide receivers. I would like to start both of these guys in this game.
So, quick question. With Geno Smith at quarterback, this is for everyone. Feel free to jump in. Tyler Lockett or Chase Claypool? Who are you more excited to plug into a lineup tonight?
Chase Claypool, for sure.
Yeah, Chase Claypool. I think the thing with Claypool was never his talent. It was consistency because of the having Juju, having Deante Johnson. We knew Najee Harris was going to command some targets. So I think out of anybody, Claypool is the one who benefits the most from the Juju injury because it raises his floor. He's always had that ceiling, but he's going to have that safe floor with Juju not in the game.
Man, Claypool is the player that you always get excited plugging in your lineup no matter what. And now that excitement can be a little bit more justified or feel a little bit safer. He's one of those guys that can just blow up any given week. I'm hoping for a big game from him tonight. I'm excited about Chase Claypool. Joey,
one thing I did want to add real quick. Oh, go ahead, Simon.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, Josh said he was excited about starting. Well, not excited, but he was fine starting Alex Collins.
Yeah.
Be honest with you, I really don't want to. I mean, he's yet to break over 50 yards. Granted, it was one game that he started so far, but you're going to get around 8 to 10 points unless he's able to fall in the end zone. The only game that he scored 15 points, he got a touchdown. So a desperation play, yeah, but I'm not looking to force him into my lineups.
Yep, I agree with you there, Jay. I'm not trying to plug him into any DFS lineups this week, but in a season-long format, there are way worse options than Alex Collins this week.
Oh, you got I wish I would have started Alex Collins over
Josh spicy.
Josh has a dissenting opinion.
I was looking at the prices of everyone, and FanDuel's smart. They're FanDuel smart. You know, they got DK Metcalf under Deante Johnson in terms of price. Makes a lot of sense to me. Even though the fantasy points per game here are a little bit different, and it's got Chase Claypool more expensive than Tyler Lockett, but Alex Collins is below all these guys. I don't know. I could see a world where you could just win on the back of him actually falling into the end zone, like you said, how he could be fantasy relevant.
So
I'm with you, Josh.
Water bet going, Josh. Should we? What's the line here?
We haven't actually paid out any of our water bets.
How do you guys feel
do that
about the setting the line at the projection here on Number Fire, 11.55 fantasy points? Are you guys comfortable setting that as the line for the water bet? Jay, are you comfortable with taking the under on 11.55?
I'll make it 12.
Let's say 12 is a push.
Okay.
I'll do that. 12 is a push.
I'll take that.
And I'll take the under.
I'll take that all day.
And I'll stay on your side, Jay. We will do a double water bet here. JL, are you in on it?
In.
Sure.
Okay, double water bet. Josh and JL versus Jay and Simon.
This is on my whiteboard right here.
Josh and I will we'll film together. We'll bring buckets.
Oh,
We'll meet up, bring buckets, and just drench each other.
Just hop in the same bath together.
If we lose, which is very unlikely, extremely unlikely.
Extremely unlikely.
Right?
You should get like it. Yeah, we'll see PPR scoring. Just get like a mini pool and just hop in the mini pool.
I have one.
Maria just dump a bucket.
I have one for we have a Rosie pool.
There you go.
Right, bring Jane, bring Rosie.
We'll baptize Josh.
Okay, guys, we got that water bet on the records. It is Alex Collins, 12 PPR points. Jay and I have the under. Josh and JL have the over. If it's 12 exactly, we'll call it a push. But I have a feeling, Josh, and then we will all do it. No, that's not how it works, Jay. I'm taking that one back. No one does it if it's a push.
then everyone else is rooting for 12 points exactly.
Exactly.
If it's 12 points exactly, every single person watching right now has to do a water bet or we quit. I'm just
we
guys,
just lost 6 viewers.
Yeah. We're going to move forward a little bit. I'm curious if any of you three have any interest in starting either of these tight ends tonight. Eric Ebron for the Steelers or Gerald Everett for the Seahawks. Is there any interest in either of these players?
Heck no.
If you had to start one, who would it be? Eric Ebron or Gerald Everett?
I mean, Pat Freiermuth is eating into Eric Ebron's targets. I mean, like he's just as good as an option as Eric Ebron in my mind. So I guess Gerald Everett, hoping that Geno Smith Everett is just going to rely on dumping it off to a tight end maybe.
Yeah, I'm with Josh.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. If I had to start one of them, it would be Eric Ebron at tight end. And then
Eric Ebron?
Gerald Everett. Sorry.
Yeah, there we go.
I agree with Josh and JL, meaning exactly the opposite of what they said.
Completely agree.
Guys, and then at the quarterback position, Big Ben has had some rough weeks so far this season. People are saying he's washed. Geno Smith, obviously the backup for Russell Wilson. These guys head-to-head, it looks like they were projected fairly closely according to Number Fire. But if you had to start one of these guys in your FanDuel lineup tonight, single game slate, which one are you picking? Geno Smith or Big Ben?
I think in a FanDuel lineup, if I'm building a FanDuel lineup, it's including Big Ben and at least one of his receivers. Maybe both Chase Claypool and Deante Johnson, if you can swing it. But that could get expensive. Maybe throw in a Pat Freiermuth.
I got to say, if I'm building a FanDuel lineup, I think I'm going to go Geno just for differentiation. Because with the wide receivers that he has, if he's able to get a couple touchdowns, he's dirt cheap. How do we have his cost in a FanDuel lineup?
I just had it up. Let me. I got you. I mean,
that's the type.
It is 1,400 while Ben's 14,000 while Ben's 15,000.
A slight discount, but not much.
That's not too bad. More for the differentiation than anything, because I don't think a lot of people are going to be taking that shot on Geno. So,
yeah, I feel you there.
Give me Ben.
Give you Ben, and you know what? I'll take
the
Ben.
Hard hitting analysis we need, Daryl.
I will take Ben just because of the receiving options and a little bit more trust in him as a quarterback. Like we talk about the Seahawks receiving options, but Josh, I liked what you said there about building a lineup out with either Deante Johnson or Chase Claypool with Big Ben. That's probably the direction I am going as well.
Now with no Juju, I'd say the receiving options are pretty even.
Yeah. Maria in here saying she's holding us all accountable for the water bet. So Maria is going to make sure we are held accountable.
It's on my board. It's happening. I wrote it down on the board. That's not.
It's on the board. That's legit.
And guys, we are going to go ahead and move on from our Sunday night football game onto our first game of the day that we are going to be talking about, the Green Bay Packers versus the Chicago Bears. Green Bay ended up winning this game 24-14 over the Justin Fields left Chicago Bears. Josh, you let out as soon as we started talking about this game. You want to let us in on a little bit of what you were thinking there?
Yeah, I will. It's Justin Fields. Like it feels like he kind of had a game, but yet they scored 14 points and lost. I guess it was kind of nice to see that he could run a little bit. 7 attempts for 47 yards. That's nice, but it's bad when I'm getting excited that he threw a touchdown and ran for 47 yards.
Yeah, he did look better in this game, but like you said, then you look at the final score and you're like, wait, that wasn't what I thought I saw on the field out there from Justin Fields. But it does give me faith going forward. It looks like they opened it up for him a little bit more this game. There were a couple passes where Allen Robinson or Darnell Mooney was open deep and there was just too much pressure. He couldn't quite get to them. But this was encouraging for me for Justin Fields going forward. I saw things from him this game that I hadn't seen yet this season that make me excited about the potential of Herbert in this Bears offense rest of the season. I think we could get some really good games from him down the stretch. From Justin Fields on that front.
It's nice to see that Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney both were pretty involved, 8 targets each. Darnell Mooney got the touchdown, so he had a better fantasy game. But yeah, I think that's the most.
Allen Robinson should have had a touchdown. He was wide open down the field. Oh my gosh.
Was brutal.
I got a question.
That's what I'm saying.
Is Allen Robinson the biggest bust in fantasy right now, relative to where he was going?
If you take injury out of it,
yeah.
I haven't done my ADP value analysis yet, but I think before that he was up there. He was definitely up there as.
He was being drafted as a top 10, top 12 option. And
AJ Brown, but again, that's kind of due to injury,
right?
Honestly, I know he wasn't drafted high, but Ronald Jones has got to be up there as far as biggest bust go, even relative to his current ADP.
Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, he was up there.
But what's up, J-Wall? He said the homies. Woo. Welcome in, J-Wall. Glad to have you here. We're just talking some Packers and Bears right now. But outside of Justin Fields, there was still a lot going on in this game. Josh, I believe you said it during the game. Khalil Herbert just looks like a good running back.
He looked good.
Not just like he was successful, but that he looked like a good running back. So JL, Khalil Herbert coming off the back of 19 carries, 97 yards and a rush touchdown with 2 receptions on top of that. Are you comfortable plugging Khalil Herbert in as a starter until David Montgomery comes back?
Yeah, until David Montgomery comes back or Damian Williams comes back. When Damian Williams comes off the COVID list, which I don't know how long that normally takes. I'm guessing a week or 2.
Yeah, he'll probably be back next week if I had to guess.
Probably be back next week. So I would be a little cautious then. I see how he's used then because he's literally their last option. Behind him is Ryan Nall or Tavis Pierce. Now he's the only one that he's the only one that got attempts today.
Yeah.
Let me guys tell you this. I think even when Damian Williams comes back,
that was going to be my next question.
I don't know if this is locked in yet. I do want to see how the week plays out, but I think Khalil Herbert's a more talented pure runner than Damian Williams, and I think Damian Williams will still have a role, more of a pass catching back, but I think Khalil Herbert could be usable going forward.
I think before this it was more of a 60-40 Damian Williams. I think now with this performance it's going to be more of a 60-40 Herbert until David Montgomery comes back.
Snip, snap.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Jay.
I completely agree
and
with
just
you.
So you guys know, 2 minutes, 30 seconds left in the Cowboys and Patriots. Mac Jones just threw a pick 6 to Dallas.
It's over, huh?
Yep.
Mac Jones.
7
Diggs. 2.5 minutes. So
was that
26-21.
Yeah, who caught it? Was it Diggs?
I did not.
Number
see
7.
Who it was.
Who's ever number 7?
If it was Diggs, I swear that man, there's something going on with him this year. Someone needs to check to make sure he didn't consult a witch before the season.
Yeah, FanDuel
to catch an interception.
My man.
Holy cow, Trayvon Diggs with
man.
That man made it.
Maryland talent, man. I'm telling you.
Just last week, he almost had one of the sickest catches. I'm not even talking about interceptions. He was just out of bounds, but it's not a fluke.
He's so good. No, he's so good. He played at Alabama.
As a Giants fan, as much as it hurts to say this, man, I really think Dallas has a shot this year. The way that their defense is playing, we already knew they had the offense, so they look good.
Now their defense does get beat on big plays from time to time but I think it's the same reason that Diggs has all of these picks so far this year. They are playing aggressively in the secondary, taking those jumps, taking those risks, and so there's going to be these big plays against them from time to time. But Diggs, if they keep playing this way, he's going to keep having. I can't imagine an interception a game pace the rest of the season, but. Good God, he's doing it so far.
7 interceptions.
Yep, I was just about to say it. 7 interceptions.
Good God, Diggs. That is absolutely insane. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that, but there's a little bit more in this Green Bay Chicago game. We mentioned the receivers already. Darnell Mooney had the touchdown. Allen Robinson was similarly targeted to Mooney, though. So that was a step in the right direction for Allen Robinson managers, people that have him on their team. Jay, does this game give you any confidence to be plugging Allen Robinson into your lineup going forward, or is he on your bench for further notice?
I can't bench him, but I have no confidence. He's got the talent, and if they start to use Fields a little, better than they have in the past, honestly, at this point, I'd be more confident with Andy Dalton in for Allen Robinson than I would for Fields, just because Andy Dalton isn't going to be afraid to sling the ball. It seems like Nagy just doesn't know what to do with Justin Fields. Either he doesn't want to, or he's just not building the offense around him. So you can't bench Allen Robinson, but I've got zero confidence.
Yeah, you can. You can bench Allen Robinson.
Oh God!
You ready?
And right before that, Jay, you said something. You said Matt Nagy just doesn't know what to do. You should just end it there.
Please tell him he does not know what he's doing.
Hello, Craig. Welcome in.
Craig?
John Luke, you were about to say something. I just had to say hello to
touchdown.
Craig.
Who has a higher target share in this offense through week 6 in Chicago? Darnell Mooney or Allen Robinson?
Mooney.
The fact that you asked makes me think it's Allen Robinson, but Mooney seems like the obvious answer. I'll say Mooney, and if you're tricking me, you're tricking me.
Mooney.
Yeah.
You are all correct. Mooney has 26.9% compared to Allen Robinson's 24.8%.
Nice.
I'm surprised.
That's been going up more recently. So like his just in the last 3 games, Darnell Mooney's target share is 32.3%.
Wow.
So
update on the Patriots Cowboys, 75-yard touchdown pass to Kendrick Bourne. So the Patriots are now on top.
Whoa, this is a game. This is a real game.
All right.
Man, this is wild. This is absolutely wild going on over there. Guys, anything else on the Chicago side before we move over to Green Bay? Any interest in Marquise Goodwin with his 1 reception for 12 yards?
Nope.
Let's move on.
He's so fast.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's what he's got. Yeah.
And they scored the 2-point conversion. So New England is up 29-26 with 2 minutes left.
Wow.
There we go. Guys, the running backs on the Green Bay side, Aaron Jones obviously had the better week, catching a reception touchdown, but A.J. Dillon saw similar carries to Aaron Jones, 11 carries to Aaron Jones, 13. They told us they were going to get A.J. Dillon more involved in this offense going forward. The coaching staff said it, and it looks like they're standing by that. Josh, does this give you any reason for concern for Aaron Jones going forward throughout the season, or just what you expected?
No, I mean, look how many points he scored. 19 fantasy points in a half-point PPR league, 21 in a PPR league. He's just fine. I mean, this has kind of been his whole career. He's never gotten the full workload. He was splitting carries with Jamal Williams last year and before that. And it's more or less the same with A.J. Dillon. And it really doesn't concern me because Aaron Jones is also getting the targets and receptions. Last year, when Jamal Williams was around, he was the guy getting those receptions and targets. Aaron Jones is just fine. He's a top 5 running back for me the rest of the season still.
Yep.
I'm
with you, Josh.
Could not agree more.
Completely agree with you. He doesn't need that extreme volume of work that some other backs need to be that top 5 running back.
He's
which
still
is
the second target share leader in this offense compared to Devontae Adams, who has 36.5% of the entire offense.
Ed coming in here, backing up your point, JL, 4 for 4 receptions. Like he's being targeted pretty heavily over there. And so on that point, JL, are there any of these receivers that you're ever plugging into a lineup outside of Devontae Adams, Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, MVS? Is there anybody you're interested in plugging in?
No, I don't think we haven't seen it be any sort of predictable pattern. There's no way to sort of choose which one is going to get a touchdown this week.
Yep, agree with you there.
On that one. Yep.
Okay, guys, unless anybody has anything else, we're going to move on to the game. I know Josh is excited about the Los Angeles Chargers. And you know what, JL as well. I forgot we got 2 Ravens fans here.
We're both fans.
Come on. We're both fans.
The Los Angeles Chargers versus the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens blowing them out 34-6, just as we all predicted. Josh,
even me as a huge Ravens fan, I thought it was going to be a close. Look at all the Ravens games so far this season. It doesn't matter if it's a good team, bad team. It's been close.
34-6, and then we come over here and we look at the fantasy scores for these players, and something isn't adding up. Like you would expect in a 34-point game that Lamar Jackson or Mark Andrews or Hollywood Brown or Latavius Murray would have just a massive game, but all of these guys were honestly Mark Andrews, you were happy about, but outside of that, you were underwhelmed by almost every other Raven that you put into your lineup this week. Josh, what happened in this Ravens game to let them win 34-6?
I'll tell you
exactly
what happened. Look where the touchdowns went. So Le'Veon Bell got a touchdown. Latavius Murray got a touchdown. Devonta Freeman got a touchdown. They were all rushing touchdowns. So it's not a passing touchdown for Lamar Jackson. Mark Andrews, you're happy with him at the tight end position. But at the same time, I still am not confident starting any of these running backs. Latavius Murray is a plotter, guys. Like, he is getting the most carries, and it's probably going to continue. I mean, 9 attempts to Devonta Freeman's. Maybe the Ravens are starting to realize it, but he is just not it, in my opinion. You're not going to be able to trust him in fantasy.
Yeah, it's a weird game where an offense puts up 34 points and really you're only happy starting the tight end. Like, that was it in this offense. But JL, as far as these running backs go, Josh hit on Latavius Murray a little bit being a plotter, but Devonta Freeman got involved a bit in this offense. Are you interested in Devonta Freeman as a pickup this week after his involvement in this game?
I mean, if you're absolutely desperate, then yes. But exactly what Josh said. I think first of all, Ravens running game hasn't looked very good. They haven't been very effective. Second of all, like Josh said, whenever they do have opportunities, it's just looked underwhelming. So as far as all of these guys are concerned, I'm throwing them in a bye week emergency start situation and not otherwise.
Yep. Full agreement there. And Craig says, I bet this Patriots Cowboys game has some fans dueling right now. Woo, woo, woo. Nice joke,
woo, Craig. Woo, woo,
woo. Jay, I wanted to come to you for this question, though. We talked enough to the Ravens fans already so far. So this was Rashad Bateman's first game back off of IR. I know people were excited to see him, and he was relatively involved. 4 receptions, 29 receiving yards, no touchdowns, but a very similar line to Marquise Brown, who had 4 receptions, 35 receiving yards. Do you think it was coincidence that they just had the rushing game going? This game got out big early, but this is the first week Rashad Bateman's back. We got a very disappointing week from Hollywood Brown. Are you nervous about Rashad Bateman eating into Hollywood Brown's workload in this offense from what we've seen so far?
No, because Hollywood's going to be the big play guy. We always knew that. But I think it's actually going to open some things up for him because Bateman got 6 targets. So if they can't focus on Hollywood, you got Bateman in there. We always knew this was going to be a tough passing game because that's what San Diego. That's what the Los Angeles Chargers. Los Angeles Chargers do. They stop the pass. They allow the run. We always knew it was going to be that type of game. So I think they're both going to be just fine. I think it's of everybody, even though he didn't have a good game this week. I think Bateman coming in and looking pretty solid is exciting for anybody who rosters Lamar Jackson, just to have another option, to have Bateman, to have Mark Andrews, to have Hollywood. I think that Lamar could go on a tear, and it was just, Lamar was definitely very disappointing this week from a fantasy perspective, but he didn't have to be, Lamar Jackson taking over the game.
He looked good still, let me tell you.
Right,
he still looked good out there.
I think he's going to go on a tear, and I think he's going to wind up as the QB1 overall in fantasy.
I love hearing that, Jay.
Jay, I loved what you brought up. This game, the Chargers defense in jail, you were talking about it a bit last week as well. They're excellent at stopping the pass, specifically to the wide receivers, not as great at targeting the tight end. And we saw it again this week. Mark Andrews, the only option on this team that you were really happy with starting in fantasy, maybe Latavius Murray with the running back graveyard that's going on right now. But Mark Andrews really being the one primary target. And I completely agree with what you're saying about Hollywood Brown. I'm not worried about Bateman's impact on him. If anything, I do think it's a positive. It truly was a coincidence that his first week back fell into a game script that was going to be run heavy from the get-go. Just unfortunate timing for anybody who's nervous about this return of Rashad Bateman's effect on Hollywood Brown. The other side of the
real quick, but I gotta say, I think Tyson Williams is droppable now. A healthy scratch again. With the way that these running backs nobody's impressed by any means. So for him to be a healthy scratch, they're not going to use him. So I don't know what's going on, if he just is the coaching staff doesn't trust him. But at this point, I think he's droppable.
Tyson Williams. Yeah. You can. I completely agree with you there. The other side of this ball, though, guys, the Chargers. While we knew the Chargers defense was great against wide receivers, the Baltimore defense has been a little bit exploitable in the secondary so far this year. So I expected this to be a great game for Justin Herbert from a passing perspective, maybe a slightly rougher game for Austin Eckler. It turned out to be a rough game for every single person on the Chargers. It just did not go their way. Do you guys have any concern about this Chargers offense going forward, or just a bad game where they got down early?
I think you summed it up, Simon. I think it was a bad game where they got down early.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a couple drops out there. I expect big things from Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler every week going forward still.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much more there is to say about this side of the ball in this game. It was disappointing for all Chargers players, but this is a high-powered offense, and you're going to see it in weeks to come. This was a horrible game for them.
I said it still go ahead, Simon. I'm talking.
I said it to Josh during the game today that I really hope we get this rematch in the playoffs. I really would love to see this rematch.
I can see this being an AFC championship, the way that these two teams have looked. And I think what I was going to say is I think this leaves the buy low window open for Keenan Allen. You know, a lot of people have been disappointed in him. Like the video I dropped earlier in the week, but he's been top 10 in targets, top 10 in catches. They like to use him in the red zone. So I think Keenan Allen, especially going into the bye, the way that he still had over double-digit points every week. So he's been putting up wide receiver 2 numbers. I think the way this offense has looked, he could still put up wide receiver 1 numbers, top 10 numbers. I think he's a perfect buy low. Go to try to see if you can make a trade for Keenan Allen.
Buy Keenan Allen. Period.
There it is.
Period.
Completely agree with you guys there. We are going to go ahead and move on to our next game, though. Jay, you are probably less excited to talk about this one than Josh and JL we're excited to talk about the Ravens game. But this is the Rams versus Giants, 38-11 in this one. The Rams running away with it. And we were nervous about Daniel Jones getting to start, and he did get to start, but it didn't do much for the Giants. So, Jay, this game, was this just the offense completely outmatched by the defense they were going up against, or was Daniel Jones not ready to go?
I think a little bit of both, but this defense is one of the best in the entire league. Aaron Donald is a absolute monster, and our makeshift offensive line couldn't stop him. And then Kadarius Toney looked great. He made some ridiculous moves, breaking ankles out there, and then he got hurt again. And then he's basically been our only playmaker without Saquon Barkley. He's been the only guy doing anything big playmaker wise from a wide receiver position, and he was hurt and left in the first quarter. So without Kadarius Toney out there, we were basically left with Evan Ingram, Kyle Rudolph, and Dante Pettis. So
Sterling Shepard had a great game.
Pettis.
Yeah, but if it takes you 10 receptions to get 70 yards, is that a great game? From a PPR perspective, sure, but
yeah, and we're about to talk about Jalen Waddle a little bit later, and he had a very similar kind of stat line. Yeah. So I understand. It's that's just the way he thrives, though, I guess. I'm sorry, I digress.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you said there, Jay. When Kadarius Toney went out, I feel like it really, not that the Giants were going to win this game, but I think they would have been in this a little bit more with Kadarius Toney on the field. Yeah. It seemed to have a major effect on this offense, which, if you are a Kadarius owner or a Kadarius Toney manager in your fantasy leagues, you're sad that he's injured, but the effect that he has on this offense is a positive sign for his future outlook. He's going to be difficult to get off the field if that's the effect that he brings to this offense as a whole. The running backs, we talked a little bit about at the beginning of the show. This was the running back from hell week. There were so many injuries, buys, so you had to plug in what you could, where you could. And Devontae Booker was one of those plug-and-play running backs this week with Saquon Barkley out injured. Now, Josh, you did mention he was the most disappointing of these plug-and-play running backs. But 12 carries, 41 yards, 4 receptions for 28 yards in a game where they only scored 11 points is actually fine for me. I feel comfortable seeing how he was used, plugging him in next week into my lineups if Saquon Barkley's still out. I don't have any qualms about it. Josh, how do you feel about Devontae Booker going into next week?
You summed it up, Simon. They were down. They were down the entire game. They were never really competitive. The Rams were destroying them, and they're still giving Booker 12 carries. So, yes, when they're in a more competitive game script, Booker's going to be more involved. So, you should be pleased getting this stat line from Booker with how this game went. So, yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised, I guess.
Completely agree with you guys. Anything else on this Giant side of the ball? Jay, we'll come to you. Anything else you wanted to hit on this Giant side?
I look forward to the Giants having a top 10 pick next year.
And guys, on the Rams side of this ball, return of the Cup. He came back. And you know what? Woods had a damn good game too. So it worked out for both of those players if you were starting them. And I say Woods had a damn good game. He had a touchdown. It worked out in his favor. It was fine. But he didn't skunk you like he had some of these other weeks. Sorry, go ahead.
But I will say, Matthew Stafford, oh man, he just looks great. Like, I mean, he's got to be top 5 in MVP voting. Like,
yeah.
I'm impressed with Matt Stafford. I expected pretty good things because I think he's a huge upgrade over Jared Goff, and the Rams gave up a lot to get him. But yeah, it was worth it. It was worth it.
Josh, you would be a huge upgrade over Jared Goff. Let's be honest.
I don't know if I could start for the Detroit Lions.
It's a tie game.
Dan Campbell did say in the post-game press conference that Jared Goff needed to step up more than he has so far.
Did he really?
He did. He said,
after crying last week, he's like now taking like the
Jared Goff
bad cop approach.
Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah.
Just wait till next week. He's going to be sobbing. He's going to be sobbing into a towel.
But also angry at the same time.
There's going to be mascara running down his face in his post-game press conference.
I love
it. I'm just disappointed.
We are starting Cooper Kupp every single week. Robert Woods, JL, how comfortable are you with plugging in Robert Woods into your lineup week in, week out at this point in the season? It's been a bit all over the place.
I'm pretty comfortable. He's still the number 2 option in my mind in that offense. You're not gonna have games like you had last week every week in fantasy. I don't think anyone was predicting that going forward. This is fine. He's the second most targeted on this offense just this week, tied with Tyler Higbee. And as long as he's still number 2 to Cooper Kupp, then he's going to be probably viable to start. Because like Josh said, Matthew Stafford has looked fantastic.
Yeah, I agree with you guys there. And then the only other thing I really think we need to be talking about on this offense is the running back, Darrell Henderson. Had himself another game. Now, they were up big, so it makes sense that they ran him a lot. But 21 carries, 78 yards on a rushing touchdown, and then a receiving touchdown on top of that. You're starting him every single week. He's a plug-and-play running back.
You need to start Darrell Henderson.
I think the thing with Robert Woods,
such a big share.
Yeah.
No, Darrell Henderson just getting such a big share of the carries. You got to
rest of season.
They have a great schedule for running back rest of the season as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 100%. Where do you guys put him rest of season? If you had to rank running backs in a PPR format, is he a top 10, a top 20, top 5? Where are you putting Darrell Henderson?
Hold on, he's top 10 for sure. I'm just trying. I'm looking at him.
Maybe top 10.
Oh, he's top 10 for me. I like him over Antonio Gibson, over James Robinson, over Nick Chubb.
No, I can't
over Kareem Hunt now.
Over Kareem Hunt, yeah.
I can't put him over Nick Chubb. I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, let's see how bad Kareem Hunt's injury is because it looked like he got pretty hurt, and if Nick Chubb's the only running back there, he's gonna eat.
Yeah.
I probably put Darrell Henderson running back 8 or 9 on the season.
Yeah. I probably put him right at 10 myself.
So we were talking about big busts earlier, but now we are talking about.
Well, that's it for Simon for the show. All right, Josh, you want to host? So
we got this.
Darrell Henderson is the opposite of a big bust, is what I was saying. He seems like he was a bit of a value in drafts. I hate big busts, and I cannot lie. But man, do I love the opposite. I hate you guys. We're gonna move on to the next game before I say big bust.
Real quick,
again.
I wanted to say too when we talk about Robert Woods and Kupp. You have to be able to update your expectations for players based on new information. So it's not like Robert Woods isn't good, but he's not that borderline wide receiver 1 anymore. He's firmly a solid wide receiver 2, where Kupp is the wide receiver 1 option in this offense.
Yeah,
so
fully agree with that.
I think Woods will be solid, but he doesn't have that upside that many people thought he did.
I'm right there with you, Jeff.
Yeah, completely agree with you guys. Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
He's not a big bust, but other than that, he should be fine.
Bust.
Robert Woods started the season looking like he was going to be a big bust, and then he came around and said,
He's just going to have that floor. Yeah,
it's just a little bust. Guys, we're going to move on to this very exciting game, the Indianapolis Colts versus the Houston Texans. The Colts winning it 31-3, and Jonathan Taylor having himself a great game. But still, it feels like the Colts aren't using him enough, even in this game where he absolutely showed up. 14 carries, 145 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 reception for 13 receiving yards for a total of 28.3 fantasy points in FanDuel scoring. Jonathan Taylor or Darrell Henderson rest of season? Josh.
You're gonna make me answer that. Yeah. So that's the line. I think Jonathan Taylor's probably 9 for me, the 9th overall running back the rest of the season, while Darrell Henderson's 10. So I'll still take Jonathan Taylor, but I like Darrell Henderson's involvement a lot more, like you said.
It's Taylor for me, and it's not even close. I just think that the talent level is so much higher for Taylor, and they both have really good offensive lines, but with the in Los Angeles, this offense is a passing offense first. So that's not going to be the case necessarily in Indianapolis. So I feel like Taylor's going to get a little bit more opportunities. I think they're, like you said, they're neck and neck. But for me, the way that they've used Taylor these past 2 weeks, Hines, it looked like Hines was going to be really involved early on in the season, and that just hasn't been the case. It's been the Jonathan Taylor show here recently. So I
think you're dumb, Jay. I think you're dumb.
Well, I love you too. I'm going to take the high road, and I think you're very smart, Josh.
I'm completely joking. But if I am going to talk about the opposite side of this, you're correct. It is more of a passing offense in LA, and Darrell Henderson's more involved in the passing game than Jonathan Taylor, I would say, right?
Yeah,
and
I'll give you that.
Receptions,
it's really splitting hairs at this point. I think
we absolutely
anybody would be perfectly happy with either one of these guys. But
I just wanted to fight you.
That's fine. Let's go. I mean, I'm ready to throw down in fisticuffs if we need to.
Let's go at it.
So JL, be the tiebreaker. If you're drafting right now, Taylor and Henderson is on the board for the rest of the season. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Taylor, but it's by
that's it. No,
it's by a very tiny margin.
I win.
They're going back to back. All right, I've switched my answer.
I said Jonathan Taylor is ahead of Darrell Henderson.
No, you didn't.
Right?
You did not.
He did
because
I agree with Josh.
I said
he said 9 and 10. Yeah.
All right, so Josh and I win, and JL said Henderson. So.
Exactly. Yeah, get out of here, JL.
What the hell? No, I said Jonathan Taylor. Get out of here.
Now, real fast. Jonathan Taylor's usage might not have looked fantastic. 14 carries, 1 reception, and this is to your point, Jay. There was a lot of big plays that happened in this game. Paris Campbell caught a 51-yard touchdown. T.Y. Hilton had a bomb of almost a touchdown. There was a lot of big plays, and the Colts were up, and they just didn't need to run Jonathan Taylor in order to actually win.
Yeah. I got to say, too, Carson Wentz is really impressed. He's been a rock solid in a super flex league. I think you could do much worse than Carson Wentz as your QB2. I think he's doesn't necessarily have a huge upside, but he's always been a guy when he's able to have time, and the Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the league. He's consistently, how many weeks in a row? He did have one really bad week. Was it week 3? I think it was. But he's been the past couple of weeks, he's put up solid numbers, 2 touchdowns, not great by any means, but in a super flex league, I'd be perfectly fine as Wentz as my QB2. I really like him more as a QB3, but
yeah,
let me see.
QB2 is fine, and I think really one of the biggest storylines from the Colts side of the football that we kind of have to mention here is that Michael Pippen, with only 2 receptions for 35 yards, he has looked fantastic. He did have a sick catch during this game. It was awesome. He looked good when he got the targets, but he got 1 rushing attempt, which is cool, I guess. But T.Y. Hilton was back this game. That's got to be concerned for Michael Pittman going forward, because he looked like he could be a starting wide receiver for your fantasy team going forward. And now I'm a little worried. I
wouldn't be too concerned. And the only reason is they only threw the ball 20 times. So yeah, that's still not that bad. But I do think that, he probably has a little lower floor. He's not quite as safe as he has been. But I still think he's got that upside. I still think at this point in his career, T.Y. Hilton isn't what he used to be. Pittman's the most explosive receiver on this team. So he's the guy. I do agree with you. I'm not as comfortable starting him as I was, but I still think he's got the upside.
Now, do you guys have a comfort level with starting T.Y. Hilton? Because if you remember, preseason camp, Carson Wentz loved T.Y. Hilton. There were all the reports coming out about their connection in this offense before T.Y. Hilton's injury. I have some interest in making sure T.Y. Hilton's on the backside of my benches to see if this game was a precursor of things to come. Like, he's a player I am heavily targeting on the waiver wire this week. Like you guys said, I have more faith in Pittman going forward, but I don't want to completely discredit T.Y. Hilton. Yes, he's old, but Carson Wentz and T.Y. Hilton had a real connection before that injury that I am interested to see if there's something there. So if you're in a fantasy league and you have some available space or player that you can drop, T.Y. Hilton's a player that I want to add. I want to add to my bench.
Yep. Adding him and starting him are definitely two different things here. And I'm willing to add him. Definitely don't want to start him next week.
I don't even want to waste. I mean, honestly, what's the upside with T.Y. Hilton at this point in his career?
4 catches for 80 yards. I don't know.
Right. So, I mean, it depends on the league, of course, but honestly, I don't have much of an interest in T.Y. Hilton. I'd rather roster a high upside backup running back or something like that versus I just feel like at this point in his career, this isn't some high flying passing offense. I just really personally don't want any part of T.Y. Hilton.
I think I'm slightly on your side, Jay. Yeah.
Love you, Simon, but that's just my take. So
I feel you. I have no ill will about that take, but I am curious to see his involvement in this offense. I don't want to discredit that early preseason connection that he had with Carson Wentz. FanDuel said rabble rousing is always welcome. That goes for you in the chat as well. Rabble rouse away. And Joey, I hate you for saying this. He said Carson Wentz shovel passes are my love language. Carson Wentz shovel passes are the bane of my existence. They make me stress out.
Fourth time I've heard this rant in like 6 days.
I hate shovel passes. I hate shovel passes so much. Before we move on to the Houston Texans side of this ball and all of the interesting storylines we have to talk about over there. Yeah, it's going to take 5 seconds. Mo Alley Cox had a touchdown catch in this game. Given the state of tight end and the tight end landscape, is there any interest in Mo Alley Cox in your starting lineups going forward as a tight end, or none at all?
Hell no.
No thanks.
Get him out of here.
No, none at all. Guys, before we move on to our next one, everyone here watching, I just want to remind you, if you are enjoying this content, make sure you go ahead and hit the subscribe button on YouTube or the follow button on Twitch if you're watching over there. We are here live every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern, breaking down the Sunday football games, but FanDuel has a whole line of incredible content creators pushing out awesome content, help you win your fantasy leagues and win some money. So make sure you are subscribed to them across all social platforms. You'll get to see our beautiful faces, plus some more beautiful ones. We are not the peak, I promise. We're going to move on over.
Simon, you're a very handsome man, Simon.
Speak for yourself, bro.
Yeah, talk us up, man. Come on.
Right,
we are the most handsome people on this YouTube channel. Sorry, JJ. You're very handsome.
Just JJ. Everybody else you knew
Everyone
this was
else
coming.
Get rocked. But JJ, you're a close fifth behind us.
You're close. You could have beat us, maybe.
Close fifth.
All right, for the Houston Texans, Brandon
Mark
Cooks.
Ingram.
We can move on.
Mark Ingram, running back 1 the rest of the season, right? I mean, 18 carries.
He's actually Dynasty wide receiver 1.
Dynasty wide receiver 1.
Mark Ingram, he is number 1 emergency plug into your lineup if you have to running back. Like if everything else has failed, it's Sunday morning, a late injury, you got to find someone to plug in. He's probably on your waiver wire, and you can probably plug him in, and he'll get you 8 to 12 points. He's just getting the ball. He's not doing very much with it, but he's just getting the ball.
If he falls into the end zone, you can go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
All the running backs out with 50 carries, he's got to be the most inefficient. Like I have to envision. He's got to be. I'm just guessing, but he's got to be.
You're basically, like Simon said, you're gonna get 8 to 12 points if he falls in the end zone, maybe 15-ish. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And I think there's anybody who had any sort of confidence in Davis Mills after last week. Yeah, get it out of here.
43 pass attempts for Davis Mills, though. They're letting him chuck the ball around. This is going to be a roller coaster of a season for him because Houston's going to be down a lot. They're going to let him throw the ball if he's in there long term, and then you're going to get great games like we saw last week, and you're going to get really rough games like we saw this week because you know what? Davis Mills is a average rookie quarterback. It's going to be all over the place.
That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said about Davis Mills.
Average rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
You know, they're letting them throw the ball more than a lot of these other teams are with their rookie quarterbacks, though. So
That's true.
the upside is there, but the downside is also unbelievably prevalent for this quarterback. But Jay, whenever we clicked on the Houston Texans, you said Brandon Cooks, that's it, move on. Why is Brandon Cooks the only thing we need to talk about here? And then, you know what, we will move on to our next game.
Well, like you said, because he's struck an and the Cowboys just won the game on a touchdown pass to CD Lamb. But Brandon Cooks is the only guy I would have any interest starting right now. I will say I do like Nico Collins. You know, he's coming back. He just came off the IR. He is somebody I wouldn't mind stashing at the end. My
Over
bench.
T.Y. Hilton?
Yes, without a question. Like the way, you know, he's his age. I liked him out of Michigan. If they are going to let Davis Mills chuck the ball, that's the thing. That's why I like Brandon Cooks. He's the best wide receiver on this team. Nico Collins could definitely get involved as well. So right now, Brandon Cooks the only guy I feel comfortable, but I don't mind Nico as a bench stash.
And Craig coming in said Davis Mills was a highly recruited college player, so I'm sure nicer things have been said about him. Thank you, Craig. Standing up for our boy Davis Mills. He needs someone in his corner.
Guys, a little fun trivia for you.
No, JL's trivia guy. Sorry.
I just fact checked my thing before. Out of all the running backs, Mark Ingram, he has the 7th most carries in the NFL. And out of all running backs with 50 carries at least, and there are, 36 of them, he is the least efficient runner, but he's tied with 2 other players. 3.3 yards a carry. There are 2 other players that also have 3.3 yards a carry. You're not going to be able to name them. So I guess I'll just give them to you.
Rex Burkhead.
One's going to be really interesting. It's Deandre Swift. Swift.
Not just on his team. Okay.
Yeah, no, Deandre Swift. And then another one.
No.
The other
Damian
one is
Harris.
Mike Davis.
That one checks out.
Yeah,
that one checks out.
That checks out.
That checks out.
The DeAndre Swift one is interesting. Is it just because this offense has had trouble moving besides through him, so they're giving him the ball a lot?
Yeah, I think it's probably the offense, but at least DeAndre Swift thrives in the receiving game, which makes him very fantasy relevant.
Yep, absolutely. Guys, I went ahead and moved on to the Minnesota Vikings Carolina Panthers game. Minnesota beating the Panthers 34-28. And if you had Sam Darnold in your lineups, it turned out okay at the end. Totally fine, but you were sweating bullets for a lot of that game. He had a pretty rough start to that game. 16 points is fine for Sam Darnold.
So
not great,
fine.
But so absolutely
right now he's
fine.
the 14th quarterback in scoring so far in fantasy.
And, you know, I feel like we talked about him on the show recently, and we consensus that he was probably around like a top 15 quarterback rest of season. Yeah. So I think you'll get better games from Sam Darnold, but this is about the level rest of season that I'm expecting from him. Does anyone have?
If CMC's not in the lineup, I think this is the type of games that you're going to have to deal with. Because, Hubbard looked decent, but he's no Christian McCaffrey. And, it's basically yeah, I'm sorry to tell you. I know that's a shock. But, McCaffrey's so involved in the passing game that they looked phenomenal first few weeks when he was healthy. But this is, granted, it's not Jets Sam Darnold by any means.
Did we lose Jet?
Who?
Oh, did we lose Simon?
I think you did lose me for a second there, but I am back.
We're losing everybody.
Yeah.
As soon as we start talking about Chuba Hubbard, the internet gives out. I think there's something
coincidence.
Going on here.
I think not.
That says everything you need to know about Chuba Hubbard.
But with CMC being placed on the IR, that means we've got at least another 3 games of Chuba Hubbard. Is this a guy that you're plugging into your starting lineup week in, week out with Christian McCaffrey out?
With the volume he's going to get, I think he's a solid running back too. The way that the running back landscape looks, especially with injuries and bye week coming up, I think Hubbard's a every week start as a running back too.
Yep, I agree.
Yep, agree with you guys there.
What the heck's up with Robbie Anderson? He gets like 10 targets every game. He got 11 targets this week, and he can't get any more than 11 yards any week, it seems like.
It sounds like a touchdown. Sounds like a Sam Darnold problem.
Did Steve Smith unretire and sign with the Panthers? Is that what I'm saying right there? I'm really confused right now.
Oh, my Lord. So I don't know if you're ever going to feel comfortable putting Robbie Anderson in your lineup, but he always has the upside to score a long touchdown. So
yeah, he was the top scoring receiver for the Panthers today. It was a disappointing week from DJ Moore, but I'm guessing everyone here, week in, week out, you're picking a Panthers wide receiver. It's DJ Moore, right?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
No question.
No
14
questions
targets
there.
for DJ Moore.
Yeah, he didn't get the touchdown, but DJ Moore's the one getting the targets. You're plugging him into your lineup each and every week. I love DJ Moore, and he had some big catches. I wish he got points for like catches that like influenced the game. Like DJ Moore had some really big catches in this game, but not a great fantasy week for him. On the Minnesota side of this ball, there were a lot of people disappointed with Justin Jefferson's week, even though he had 8 receptions for 80 yards. He just didn't get in the end zone like his counterpart, Adam Touchdown Thielen. Any concerns about Jefferson going forward, or this was just he didn't get the touchdown?
Did he fumble in this game?
He did fumble.
Yeah, he fumbled once. No concerns. Players are going to have games like this. I'm not concerned at all. He still got the most targets out of everyone on the team.
And then, Jail, Mr. Target, Adam Thielen, people have been he's Adam Touchdown Thielen for sure this year. It seemed like until this game, he seemed to be a little bit more involved. What is Adam Thielen's target share in this offense?
On the season, it's 21.8%. Just the last 3 games, 21.4%. So it's been pretty constant, pretty uniform. What we've seen lately is sort of where he's settling in, it seems. And Justin Jefferson has the number 1 with 25.8%.
Yeah, checks out. That is a little bit higher than I thought for Adam Thielen. But as far as Adam Thielen goes as a startable wide receiver in fantasy, how do you guys feel about him rest of season? Is he someone that's a every week starter or matchup dependent? What are you doing with Adam Thielen?
He's a wide receiver too for me, in my mind.
Yep. I completely agree. I think he's a wide receiver too. He could have some big weeks, but as we saw when he doesn't get the touchdown, he doesn't necessarily have, this week would be a little different, but most weeks so far, if he hasn't had a touchdown, he hasn't had that great of a week. So
he's probably just outside of a wide receiver too for me, but that still means he's an every week starter.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree with you guys. I feel like you have to plug him in. You're going to get bad weeks, but you have to plug him in.
Josh, let me ask you this. Adam Thielen or Robert Woods rest of the season?
That's a good question.
I do think Robert Woods has the better offense. But I think Adam Thielen is just going to be more consistent throughout the season when it comes down to it. He's got more touchdown upside in my mind. I lean Adam Thielen.
Lean Adam Thielen on that one? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Adam Thielen for Josh over Robert Woods rest of season. And I think I agree with you there, but it is very close. I hate having to answer that question. FanDuel said Bobby Trees on nickname alone. Bobby Trees getting the nod on that one. While we're talking about receivers, though, there was another receiver. People were a little bit excited about him. Some people added him on waivers. We've seen him in some waiver articles recently. But KJ Osborne showed up in this game. 6 receptions, 78 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. Is he a part of this Minnesota game plan going forward, or was this just a great game for KJ Osborne? Are you worried about his impact on Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson in this offense at all?
He scored the game-winning touchdown as well. It was beautiful. KJ Osborne definitely going to get less targets than Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson on a weekly basis, but he's very explosive, and this offense kind of thrives with 3 receiving threats, and I think those are the 3 receivers. I think maybe Irv Smith would have been a little bit more involved if he didn't get injured, but it's KJ Osborne is the 3rd guy for sure.
15.3% target share in this offense. Josh is right. He's
That's
like
substantial.
He's a firm wide receiver 3 on this team. I don't know about in fantasy.
No, not.
I think he's if
fantasy.
if you're in a pinch and you need somebody to start as a flex or a wide receiver 3, the matchup is right. I mean, he's scored double digits in half his games. He had a 20-point game already in PPR formats. He's got 9 targets, 6 targets, 7 targets, 7 targets. So he's getting targeted. So I think, like you said, you could do a lot worse than throwing KJ Osborne in your lineup as a emergency either bye week replacement or injury replacement.
Jay, let me ask you this. KJ Osborne or Henry Ruggs rest of season? Which one of these players do you want to plug into your lineup?
Wow.
Easy for me.
Yeah.
Easy for you, Jay. We'll start with you.
I'm going Osborne.
Osborne for Jay. Jay, what do you say?
I'm going Ruggs.
Ruggs, easy Ruggs from you.
Easy Ruggs,
Josh, what about you?
I lean Ruggs.
So, Jay, tell us a little bit about why you pick Osborne in that scenario.
I just don't trust Henry Ruggs, and I love what they're doing with Simon, your boy Hunter Renfrow. It's very close. It's a coin toss. It would be matchup dependent for me, but I just lean the way things have looked in Las Vegas here recently. I don't necessarily trust that offense. The way, Renfro's been commanding a decent amount of targets. They've got Darren Waller's the option. Ruggs is the much higher upside, but I think Osborne has a safer floor between the two.
Yep, I
think Ruggs probably needs a big play in order to be fantasy successful. But if anyone's going to get a big play, it might be him.
Yeah, I agree with you guys there. Jay, I think you broke it down perfectly for my thoughts exactly. KJ Osborne is probably your safer option. Seems like he's got safer targets each and every week, but Henry Ruggs has that big playability that just can smash that home run any given week. Dalvin Cook, you're plugging him into your lineup if he's healthy. He's
30 carries for 29.
Absolutely insane.
By the way, those two guys have same number of fantasy points per game.
Who?
11.7. Ruggs
KJ?
and Osborne.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Look at me. I did that comparison on purpose. I definitely knew that.
I like how you did that move. That was nice.
Yes.
Anytime you talk, can you do that, please?
That I do
No,
that. That's,
do
do you remember the video? Do you remember the video of the guy being interviewed on TV and then his daughter comes marching in the background like this? That's the person I was trying to emulate. Was the confidence of a 4-year-old marching into their father's television interview was the was the confidence.
And then the nanny comes sliding in.
A baby comes in on a bouncer
wife,
too, and then someone comes in and drags both children out violently. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Type in.
Not in a half an hour.
In a half an hour.
Keep watching this because with my children, it's very possible it could happen on this show. And they could just show up at any moment.
Stay tuned.
Let's just set one up. Let's just set it up, Jay.
Well, you can't tell the people now they know. Come on, Josh.
Okay, guys, we are going to move on to this Kansas City versus Washington football team game. The final score was 31-13, Kansas City Chiefs, but if you watch this game at the beginning, it was a lot closer in the first half than this score kind of indicates. Washington was keeping up a little bit there before Kansas City pulled ahead. Go ahead, Josh. What were you saying?
I live bet it.
Which side did you live bet
What
on?
line what'd you get?
I live bet the Chiefs when they were down 13-10. The football team had the ball, and I think it was the Chiefs minus 2 points at the time.
Oh, wow. Phenomenal job. Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely worked out. Guys, what I did want to ask you about, Patrick Mahomes going into the season, consensus dynasty QB number 1, superstar redraft QB number 1. His interceptions seem to have been a bit of a problem this year. Now, some of them are on the receivers. We've seen quite a few interceptions get bounced off of receivers' hands. But do you have any concern about Patrick Mahomes as a locked and loaded fantasy option rest of the season on this Chiefs team? I just want to ask.
What you talking about, Simon?
I've seen the rumblings on Twitter, but I just want to.
I wouldn't say concerned. I will say I think the status of it being Mahomes in his own tier, then the Josh Allens, Lamar Jacksons, Kyler Murrays. I think they're all in one tier together now. So I think his status as the undisputed QB1 isn't necessarily there anymore. But no, you're not concerned about Patrick Mahomes at all.
I mean, concerned about Patrick Mahomes is maybe knocking him from 1 to 3, right? Like it's not knocking him from 1 to non-startable. You're talking about him as a top 3 option instead of the number 1 overall option. But I seem to agree with you guys there. And then another question I saw pushed out on Twitter a lot today. Daryl Williams came in and had himself a game. People were asking, do you think Daryl Williams is a better back in this offense than Clyde Edwards-Helaire? So Josh, you have probably been the highest on Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of all of us throughout the offseason. Daryl Williams looked great in this offense. Do you have concern about Clyde Edwards-Helaire role whenever he comes back from injury?
Josh doesn't have to say anything. His face just said everything that you needed to say.
No, you're right. I do love Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And it wasn't so much love for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It was. I thought there was just a lot of room to grow, but it's really this offense, him getting more involved in the passing game, him just getting the valuable touches, goal line touches. There's going to be a ton of scoring opportunities the Chiefs are going to have. And this is what we kind of saw Daryl Williams get the full workload this week. He got 21 carries. He wasn't necessarily efficient, but he was he got those touchdowns, and that's what really matters in fantasy a lot of the time. 3 catches is nice. When Clyde Edwards-Helaire comes back, I think it's still his job, but it's going to be a split, and it's going to be disappointing. I'm here to tell you guys, if you can, I'm not telling you to sell Clyde Edwards-Helaire right now because I don't know what you're going to get, but
do you think a 50-50 split? You think it's going to lean
sad
more
day.
CH? Or?
Slightly on CH's side. and it's not going to be good for either one of these guys in fantasy. That's what I am looking at. That's what I think is going to happen right now. And I know Andy Reid likes to lean on one running back a lot of the time, but I don't know. I think Daryl Williams has proved it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you a bit there, Josh. Seeing what Daryl Williams did when given the opportunity, I highly doubt they go back to a one-back system with CEH whenever he comes back. I just can't see it happening with what we've seen from CEH and what we've seen from Daryl Williams so far this year. JL, how do you feel about Daryl Williams or CEH more whenever he comes back going forward?
It's going to really depend on what sort of information we get on his injury going forward and how he's feeling. Daryl Williams looked great, but I honestly do put that a lot on this offense. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looked great at times, and the offense is really moving. So I think that whoever is going to be running this backfield will be fantasy relevant. And there's a good chance that if the injury keeps them from giving Clyde Edwards-Helaire the workload back and them starting to split it 50-50 with between Daryl Williams and him, like Josh said, that's going to be worrisome. I'm not sure how confident I'm going to be in either one of them.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys there. Now, on the Chiefs side, we don't really need to talk about Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. They're superstars. You plug them in. They're heavily targeted, 12 targets, 11 targets. But what I did want to talk about was the other receivers in this offense who had quite a few targets today. They were not irrelevant. Excuse me here. Demarcus Robinson had 6 targets, 3 receptions, 46 yards. Mecole Hardman had 5 targets, 4 receptions, 62 yards. Any interest in either of those guys going forward, either in a DFS or season-long format?
This seems to happen all the time with the Kansas City wide receivers. Anytime, somebody other than Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, even though he's a tight end, he's basically a wide receiver on this offense. Everybody's like, oh, it's Byron Pringle. He's the guy. Oh, it's Mecole Hardman. It's this guy. Oh, Denard Robinson. And then you start him and you get a pick at 0.
Denard Robinson.
DeMarcus.
Wait, what? Denard Robinson, wasn't he the quarterback from Michigan?
Well, you know what I mean.
Was it?
What I mean. I was actually testing you guys. Well done.
Okay.
Bravo. Yeah. I was testing you.
So we did it.
Wide
receiver.
Good
job,
I was the guy from Michigan. Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, it kind of reminds me of the Packers situation. More or less.
FanDuel said Denard Robinson, dual threat legend.
He's right. Was he the last guy on the cover of NCAA football? He was definitely on the cover.
I think he was.
He was the last guy on the cover of NCAA football. So
shout out Denard Robinson. That's what this stream's about. If you take one thing from the stream, it's awesome. Dual threat legend.
Was he
Denard
shoelaces?
Robinson.
He didn't tie his shoelaces or something?
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right.
That's so reckless.
Denard Robinson and my girlfriend never tying their shoelaces. I didn't know we would be talking about that
all
today.
over the place.
But Jay, what you said about these receivers, I completely agree with you. In a season-long format, I have no interest in plugging any of them into my lineup. And Denard Robinson. But in a DFS matchup, I am totally fine throwing them into my lineup. Take your shot. The one I'm more interested in is actually Demarcus Robinson. It seems like a lot of the attention goes to Mecole Hardman, but Demarcus Robinson is almost just as heavily targeted. I feel like he's the man that's forgotten, especially if Tyreek Hill is injured. Like we weren't sure if he was going to play in this game. Everyone was obsessing over Mecole Hardman, but Demarcus Robinson is just as targeted in this offense as Mecole Hardman is. He's a DFS play week in, week out for me. I think he can hit that long touchdown, and he's probably a little bit cheaper than some of these other options on this offense.
I like that.
Maria has a question for us. Sorry if you've already covered this, but drop or keep Alexander Mattison. And for me, Maria, if you have the room on your bench, keep him. He's a guy that if you need to drop him to pick someone up to start somebody with bye weeks and injuries, you can. But if you have any option at all to keep him on your bench, I want to, because Dalvin Cook hasn't been the most robust running back when it comes to health in the NFL, and Madison's a plug-and-play backup.
If you have Dalvin Cook, you cannot drop Alexander Mattison.
Yep.
Agree with both of you.
If you don't, then I'm completely with Simon.
Try so hard not to drop him, but it's okay if you need to. If you need to, you can do it.
Try to trade him to the Dalvin Cook owner. Push this ankle. I mean, because Dalvin Cook, he played a game,
deal,
missed a game.
Even if you just slightly upgrade a position, that's a move.
It's worth it
to help your team.
I love it, Jay.
Yep. And then for the Washington side of this ball, J.D. McKissic was the highest scoring player for this Washington offense.
We all drew it up.
Well, you know what? You look at the game, it makes sense. They got down. The Chiefs ended up pulling ahead. J.D. McKissic is their pass catching back. They've made that apparent. It's not going to be Antonio Gibson, at least not this year. And so he got the catches. That's where he made his money. 8 receptions, 65 receiving yards. That's where the majority of his points came from in a half PPR format. J.D. McKissic is game script dependent, but game script dependent startable. He's a guy you can plug in my eyes. Now, Antonio Gibson, we have been concerned about him because of that injury. This was not a good game for Antonio Gibson. 10 carries, 44 yards, 2 receptions for nothing, 0 yards.
Nothing.
John Luke, are you still nervous about Antonio Gibson going forward, or do you think this was a game script written bad game for him?
Honestly, I am still worried. I think we talked about it last week. That what's it called? The hairline fracture, stress fracture,
hairline stress fracture,
hairline stress,
same thing,
stress compound,
subluxation,
not compound, not
woo,
compound.
woo, woo.
That would be
woo,
bad.
woo woo fracture. If you got a woo 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 fracture, you're in trouble.
You got a woo 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 boo.
But yeah, I
say
think
woo woo boo boo.
Yeah,
woo 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 boo boo boo.
he's got a woo 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 boo.
Yeah, I am
sorry.
worried about Antonio Gibson. I think that he'll still be somewhat relevant going forward as long as that he doesn't make that injury worse. J.D. McKissic is as we've seen been used very much in the passing game, which is excellent for his fantasy value going forward.
Yep, agree with you guys there. Now, Taylor Heineke, this was a game that a lot of people, myself included, were excited to start Taylor Heineke in, going up against this very weak Chiefs defense that we've seen so far through the season, but it was rather disappointing. So Jay, Taylor Heineke, rest of season, do you have confidence in him as a fantasy starter, or is this a purely matchup dependent quarterback play?
100% matchup based play, and you saw it. He can even fall flat on his face in a good matchup. This Kansas City secondary has been very exploitable this season. Now, I will say, Terry McLaurin got injured in practice. They said, it wasn't concerned if he was going to actually play, but he had 8 targets. He only had 4 catches. He had a couple of deep balls that he could have caught. I think the injury bothered him more than the football team was letting on. So I definitely think that has a big reason to do with Heineke's tough day, because did Curtis Samuel play or was he out?
No, he was out.
I'm Curtis Samuel. He's re-aggravating the groin, I think.
Hamstring.
Hamstring. He
God,
just
that was so loud. It terrified me.
I would not rely on Curtis Samuel the rest of the season. Personally.
Yeah,
I'm dropping
I think Heineke's a matchup-based QB2. I really don't. I think you could definitely find a better option in one quarterback leagues, but super flex leagues, I think he's solid.
He does have upside.
What about our boy Ricky Seals-Jones with 4 receptions for 58 yards and a receiving touchdown?
Good start. Just saying that.
You did.
Yeah. So Jay, we'll come to you first on Ricky Seals-Jones. Was he just a good start this week, or is this a tight end you're interested in going forward?
As long as Logan Thomas is out and Heineke's under center, I think he's somebody, obviously if you don't have one of the studs, not Kittle.
Ricky Seals-Jones or Travis Kelce?
That's tough. I might have to go Seals-Jones on this one. No, I think out of, he's getting the looks. They're using him in the red zone. I think he's a fine start as long as Logan Thomas is out.
That's the key, though, Jay.
Once Logan Thomas is back, no
Ricky
interest.
Seals-Jones really has just been playing all the snaps the last 3 weeks, and once Logan Thomas is back, that's not going to be the case.
Yep.
When is he expected to be back? Do you guys know?
He's placed on IR, so
Yeah.
He missed last week. He missed this week, so I'm not 100%. He's at least next week. I don't know about after that.
So we got at least one more week of Ricky Seals-Jones, boys. Go and pick him up. He's as far as tight ends go, he's a very startable asset. Anything else on this Washington side of the ball before we move on? Or we already talked about Kansas City, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we did.
In fact, we did. Man, I just wanted to talk about them again. It was so exciting. We are going to move on to the Bengals versus Lions game. The poor Lions staying at 0-5. Jared Goff did not have himself a good game, but the Bengals came out and looked pretty dang good. And before we get started, this isn't fantasy relevant at all. Like, this is not fantasy relevant, but on that Joe Mixon touchdown, Jamar Chase had such a beautiful block. that made me have so much more confidence in him as an NFL receiver. Like, you can see the catches, you can see the touchdowns, but it's those high effort plays that make coaches want to make sure they're on the field at all times. Jamar Chase threw an unreal block that secured the Joe Mixon touchdown. That would have been a touchdown without the Jamar Chase block. I love him. I was too low on him preseason. He's such a good football player.
Did you see Joe Mixon pick up the fan's phone and take the little selfie video?
No,
I think it was on the Uzoma touchdown. There was a fan, you saw it like it was right in the front of the fan's face, and then they dropped the phone, and then all of a sudden you see it picked up, and Joe Mixon just does a little selfie there with the video and then hands it back to the fan. That has to be one of the best things ever. Yeah, it was really good.
I'm going to say something here that we usually say as a joke. Dynasty wide receiver 1, Jamar Chase.
You really
Jamar
think so?
Chase.
Is that serious or?
It's serious.
You taking him? You're drafting him ahead of Justin Jefferson?
No.
No.
You know what? But I think it's a conversation. I think you can legitimately have a conversation about Jamar Chase up there as dynasty wide receiver number 1.
It's really close though. It really is. Super,
and you know what, Josh? I don't necessarily disagree with you. I've been
CeeDee
saying
Lamb's right there too.
Right, but all season I've been saying that I still think Joe Burrow is a buy low. I think by the end of the season, this offense is going to be humming. He's had at least 2 touchdowns in heaven. You know, I live in North Carolina. Give me a break, okay? He's had at least 2 touchdowns in every single game. He hasn't had, he had 1 game under 20 points. They've definitely held this offense back to get him back on the field. The games that he starts to take some hits, they lean more on the run and stuff like that. But I honestly think this offense is going to be, JL, this is for you, humming by the end of the season.
Humming.
I think Burrow is a great buy low, the way that this defense has looked too. I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback by the end of the season.
Yep, I love that take. And with receivers like Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd, there are very few teams in the NFL that you can put in a conversation with the Buccaneers about receiving trio. Like, I think the Bucs are still better with Evans, Godwin, Brown, but the Cowboys and the Bengals, I think, are really trio. DeAndre Hopkins,
more of a quad.
I think trios. The Bengals are right up there with the Bucs and the Cowboys. They have to be. And the Cowboys,
Bucs number 1 still.
Bucs number 1. Oh, without a doubt, the Bucs are still number 1.
Bucs, Rams.
I'm just trying to give a nod to the Bengals here and say
the Bengals have the better running back.
Oh yeah,
even the way Mixon. That Lenny's looked, Mixon gets involved as well.
Who's the third in Seattle?
Exactly.
Not Moore anymore. It was Moore last year, right? But I don't know who it is anymore. Russell Wilson is the third receiving option in Seattle, I think, even on IR.
Gino Smith.
Everett, maybe?
Man, I was pass to himself. I was trying to tell my girlfriend the other day about the Marcus Mariota pass to himself where he threw and caught the touchdown pass in the same game and like how that worked for fantasy, but I was doing such a bad job describing it that I was just desperate for it to happen on the TV while I was saying it, but we did not get that luxury.
Actually,
maybe we'll see it again.
I just looked it up. Denard Robinson is the third wide receiver in Seattle.
Also, side note, this is completely random. Baker Mayfield got injured in today's Browns game. I'm sure we'll mention that in a second.
But the Browns signing Denard Robinson, is that what you're about to tell us?
Case Keenum came in as a backup, and Josh and I were talking a couple weeks ago, like any team that we don't know the backup.
That was you and I, Simon.
Or it was me and Jay. Sorry. We just assume that Case Keenum is the backup for said team. And as a Browns fan, it's funny to me that he actually is the backup for my team.
The backup literally for every team in the NFL.
He seems like it. And he is part owner of a vineyard in Texas. And I had their wine recently. Did you guys know that?
No. Did you go there?
Justin probably knew that. Our friend Justin from 14P. He's a big wine drinker.
He's a big wine drinker, yeah. No, I was at the Renaissance Festival and they had a booth there. But so we did have it over there. Josh, before we move on from the Bengals, Mr. Joe Mixon lover, I know you and Jay both love him, but I'm going to come to you. Are you expecting more of this from Joe Mixon rest of season with the way this offense is moving right now?
This is exactly what I expect from Joe Mixon week in and week out. Being involved in the passing game, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 59 yards. Maybe he doesn't get a reception touchdown every week, but and that was a beautiful reception touchdown. But 18 carries, 94 yards. This is what I expect, and
that's why Josh and I love him so much.
Exactly.
Love, love, love. Okay, guys, we're going to move on to the Lions side of this ball. Relatively disappointing for most of these players. If you plug them into your lineup, you're probably fine with DeAndre Swift, okay with TJ Hawkinson. You know, at 11 points from a tight end, you're not going to get mad there. But outside of that, it was pretty disappointing. I know I was personally touting to start Amon-Ra St. Brown this week with the
Apparently,
with the
it looks like he changed
getting.
his name. It's just Amon-Ra St. Apparently,
Amon-Ra St. is his name. Amon-Ra St. wide receiver.
He's a Saint.
Can we start calling him Saint wide receiver? I think that's his name right there. 5 receptions, 26 yards. Is this a guy that you guys think has weekly flex appeal, even with this disappointing game?
Nope.
No?
not the way Goff has looked.
It just hurts because he's getting targeted fairly heavily in this offense. But I agree with you guys. With a quarterback playing the way Goff has looked, it doesn't matter if he's getting 8 targets a game. Those 8 targets are worth nothing coming from Jared Goff in my mind. Nothing. Take that, Jared Goff.
He just got no touchdowns. He just needs more touchdowns is what the issue is.
TJ Hawkinson actually impressed me. 11 targets, 8 receptions for 74 yards. By far the most impressive receiver.
Yeah, there were some people saying that Hawkinson was one of the biggest busts, Simon. And I think that was definitely premature. I think Hawkinson is a lockdown. You know,
he's dealing with that injury.
Yeah. He's in that tier of guys that is an every week start for tight end.
Look at the rest of the pass catching options on this offense. How are you not going to start Hawkinson? Like nothing. You start Hawkinson week in, week out. I know it's been disappointing, but God, he's such a good player, and in an offense where he is truly like alone as a pass catching option. I understand the love for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but there is TJ Hawkinson's the man. Amon-Ra St. wide receiver. DeAndre Swift. Josh, you mentioned earlier that he was tied for the least efficient running back with more than 50 carries, but he's been a pretty dominant fantasy force so far this season. Any concerns about DeAndre Swift or no?
Nope. As long as he's involved in the passing game, I am happy because this Lions needs receiving targets, and DeAndre Swift's probably the first or second best receiver on the team, in my opinion, when it comes down to it. And again, he's getting the carries, even in a negative game script, getting 13 carries.
And then real quick, before we move on to the Arizona-Cleveland game, and we don't have to spend much time on this one. No big deal, guys. We can just skim right over it.
No. If I have to deal with the Giants every week.
We're running short on time. But I did want to ask, so I've seen multiple people come out and say with the way DeAndre Swift has performed so far this season, the workload he's being given, that he should be in consideration for the Dynasty RB1 overall in fantasy. Do you guys agree with that position on DeAndre Swift? Do you think he deserves to be in that conversation?
No, not even close. He's not in a good offense. I think that's the type of thing you have to be able to put up this type of production in, a top tier offense. And it's going to be a while, I think, before the Lions have a top tier offense. So no, I mean, this week you take away the touchdown and he's hovering around 10 points. So I think he's
Barkley was a dynasty running back number 1 overall for a little bit there, and a pretty poor Giants offense. Now, that is a talent disparity, I think, in a lot of people's minds between Barkley and Swift. Is that the only difference there for you, that you're viewing Barkley as a more talented back? Yeah,
I mean, Swift is great, but generational gets thrown around so much in fantasy football and the draft, everything. Barkley, in my opinion, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Giants fan. I think you guys know I try to stay away from my fandom when it comes to fantasy, but Barkley is one of the very few players that I do think is a generational talent.
I agree with that.
DeAndre Swift is the dynasty running back number 1.
There we go. I knew someone was going to say it.
There it is. Josh, 1 out of 4.
He's on a bad team, and in a PPR league, he's the 8th overall running back. Imagine if this team does figure it out. I mean, who are you going to put next to him?
Lions fans have been saying that all their life, Josh. Imagine if they figure it out.
101, you're on the clock, Josh. Are you taking DeAndre Swift?
It's not a super
or Jamar Chase.
And startup.
I don't want the 101 in a startup super flex.
It doesn't matter. You're on the clock. Are you taking DeAndre Swift?
I don't know who I'm taking over him. To be completely honest with you,
Jonathan Taylor.
No, I want DeAndre Swift more.
That's the debate for me right now.
DeAndre Swift.
I have Swift in a couple of dynasty leagues, so I like hearing that. But I mean, he's in the conversation, but.
Najee Harris, maybe you could throw his.
That's the name I was going to bring the other name.
He loses Ben Roethlisberger.
That team I have Najee Harris and DeAndre Swift on one team. So
with Ben Roethlisberger's gone next season, Najee Harris is not going to get the receptions and targets he's getting right now. I don't think he's still going to be a highly used running back, and I like him. I love DeAndre. I love what I'm seeing out of DeAndre Swift, even with that inefficiency at running. I mean, it's the pass catching work. He's a great pass catcher. He's a pass catching running back that gets a lot of carries as well.
Do you think
Josh,
that continues though if they're able to get, a rock solid wide receiver one?
I think so.
Was he catch? I don't know the answer to this, but was he getting this many targets last year when Kenny Golladay was on the team and on the field?
So there was also a rookie who they generally don't
involved in
trust
pass
in pass blocking, but he was relatively involved as a rookie.
I like Deandre Swift. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say that he's not good by any means, but I just feel like it's a little premature to call him running back one in Dynasty.
I don't expect everyone to agree with me.
I find myself more in line with Josh. Not necessarily that he's number one overall, but I think he's in that conversation. Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift. I think those are the backs you're talking about when you're talking about the number one overall running back in Dynasty. And Ed said Simon must be wearing suspenders with that move. I wish, man. Bring suspenders back. Belts are the worst. And suspenders just look nice. Guys, we're going to move on to this Browns-Cardinals game. On the Browns side, Kareem Hunt injured in this game. Nick Chubb out. Do you guys have interest in Demetric Felton or Dearness Johnson as a pickup going forward, or as someone you could plug into your lineups?
Only if they're both out. I mean, that's really it. Like if one of the two is playing, zero interest. But especially Baker's hurt. Like they're probably going to start if Baker's out for an extended period of time. They're going to get even more run heavy. So. If they're both out, yes. Otherwise, no, thank you.
I think Chubb will be back soon. And
the only thing that scares me with Chubb is they play on Thursday night this week. So I hope that he's able to. Maybe that's why they held him out. That's I've seen them do that before. He missed a game before Thursday night game, and he was in there. So.
Yep. Real quick on the Brown side of this ball, I know we can go through it quickly, but Donovan Peoples-Jones, 4 receptions, 101 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. Don't plug him into your lineup next week is what I'm going to say, but man, was it good to see.
He trucked that guy and to get into the end zone.
That was sick.
That was sick. That was such a sick touchdown. He just demolished, flattened the dude completely.
Dynasty, go get him. Put him on your bench. Let him sit there. He is a talented wide receiver. I'm so excited to see him have a big game. But for the love of God, I'm just asking you, do not plug him into your lineups next week.
Don't chase this.
This was a great game from him, but you can't expect this going forward.
And Landry will probably be back next week.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point, Josh. Anything else on the Brown side of this ball?
Glad Odell didn't get too hurt. He was hurt for a little bit.
He came back in the game.
He came back in the game.
Got 8 targets, 5 catches, 79 yards. This is good to see for Odell Beckham.
Very good to see.
Dynasty managers.
Yep.
It's not the best game in the world, but I still feel
it's fine.
Okay putting him in my flex.
Yep.
The Arizona side, Kyler Murray, good. DeAndre Hopkins, good. Then good luck with the rest of the receivers. This week, it didn't matter, though. As long as you didn't plug in Rondale Moore, you were happy. AJ Green, Christian Kirk both showed up for you this week. What are you guys doing with the secondary receiving options on this Arizona team? So outside of DeAndre Hopkins, obviously, AJ Green, Christian Kirk, Rondale Moore. JL, we'll start with you first. Which one of these guys would you rather start on a week-in, week-out basis?
AJ Green, I think, is my number 2 on this offense. Just going to quickly pull up his target numbers here.
Remember that Zach Ertz just got traded to the Cardinals this week.
Zach Ertz did just get traded to the Cardinals. That is a super interesting move, actually.
Yeah.
So AJ Green's got 17% of this target share in this offense. Christian Kirk has 15.9% and Rondo Moore 15.4%. All pretty close together. But AJ Green would definitely be the next one in the line for me.
I think if you're looking for guaranteed points, AJ Green is the play. If I have to pick one to plug in, week out, rest of season, I'm just the way I play fantasy. I'm probably going Rondale Moore. I just think he has that explosiveness, that big playability that, some weeks he's going to drop 4 fantasy points on you like he did this week, but I don't see Zach Ertz eating into any of his targets. They don't play the same position on the field at all. I think Rondale Moore is going to have big games. He's the one I want to plug in. Josh, what about you?
I think personally it's AJ Green because I do think that Zach Ertz is going to take away targets from all these guys a little bit. He's just going to be in the middle of the field taking away targets. So I think it hurts the secondary receiving options for the Cardinals.
Yeah. Are you excited about Zach Ertz rest of season?
I think it's going to take a week or two for him to just get acclimated a little bit. So I don't want to start him or anything. But once he does, I think this is an improvement.
Max Williams was becoming relevant. Max Williams is proving pretty pretty productive in that offense. So I'm definitely.
And I think
excited.
Zach Ertz is a more talented tight end.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Williams.
Completely agree. More experienced and more talented. Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna be a little on an island here, but I think I would go with Christian Kirk. I think he offers a decently safe floor. He's had at least 5 catches in 4 out of 6 games, and he has that upside as well. They like to throw it to him deep. I think if I'm picking one guy to go in every week, I think it would be Kirk. You're rolling the dice with any of them, but I like that mixture of a safe floor, getting targeted a lot, with that big playability as well.
Yep, I agree with you guys there. And then a disappointing week from the Arizona running backs. Do you guys read into that at all going forward, or was this just how the game played out?
It's really strange. Maybe Chase Edmonds is still kind of dealing with a little bit of an injury. 16 carries for James Conner, 4 carries for Chase Edmonds. Chase Edmonds was somewhat involved in the passing game like he is, but only 3 catches. It was disappointing to see from Chase Edmonds. James Conner's going to continue getting this share of the carries. That really lowers Chase Edmonds' floor. And it does make Conner a decent fantasy running back in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have many leagues where Conner is just a locked-in starter. Now I'm not thrilled about it, but he's getting the work in a high-powered offense, and every single week probably has the best opportunity. Like, out of all the running backs who could fall into the end zone, there's very few with a higher probability than James Conner because of the offense he's on. He's the kind of running back you're not excited about, but you're going to start him.
And this was a tough matchup for those running backs too. Browns are very good against the run.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so this is a tough matchup.
And it looks like the Cardinals knew that. There was a lot done through the air for this offense in this game. Real quick, sorry, excuse me. Those kombucha burps getting me again. Anything else about this game, guys, before we move on?
We'll say we don't know with Kareem Hunt, but if he is out for a long time, I think you got to put Nick Chubb in the conversation as a potential top 5 running back. I think the only thing it's never been the talent, it's never been his efficiency, it's been the workload. And if he gets that workload, watch out.
I mean, hell, he's been a top 10 running back with Kareem Hunt on the field, or viewed as such. You take Kareem Hunt out of there, Nick Chubb is an absolute monster. Completely agree with you.
And Nick Chubb can catch the ball. It's just that Kareem Hunt plays that role. So
thank you. 100%
I'm right there with you, Jay.
Fantastic point, Josh. Like, people think just because he doesn't mean he can. I saw it last year. I got excited. They started throwing him out wide early in the season, and he made some great catches. So I'm with you. I'm excited as a Nick Chubb manager.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, guys, I know Sunday Night Football has started, and all of you guys want to get over there. We want to get over there to start watching some Sunday Night Football, too. So that is going to be it for your Sunday Night Fantasy Recap presented by FanDuel. Just a reminder, I am your host, Simon. We are here every Sunday with the co-hosts Jay, John, Luke, and Josh at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, breaking down these fantasy games for you. Before you leave this stream, if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitch, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and that follow button on Twitch to make sure you're not missing out on this awesome FanDuel content week in and week out. Woo, slapping the base.
Slapping the base.
Before we left, we were going to give Super Bowl predictions each and every week. Does anybody want to update theirs from last week?
Slapping the base.
I don't remember mine from last week.
I was about to say, I don't remember who I picked.
Mine were Chargers and Rams.
I'm pretty sure I remember what mine were. I think it was Baltimore and Tampa Bay. And
I think I was the only one that picked Baltimore, wasn't I? No, I think you picked Tampa to win. I think that was the difference. I picked Baltimore to win.
All right, I'm going Baltimore, Tampa Bay.
Let's go.
I don't remember mine. I think mine might have been Chargers last week.
Baltimore and Tampa Bay feels so safe.
I'm gonna stick with Chargers Rams. I know it was a disappointing week for the Chargers, but I believe in them. But Ravens are on watch. They put a couple more games like this together, and I don't know how I can pick anybody but them for the Super Bowl. Like,
give me Baltimore Rams.
No one's gonna give respect to Arizona, huh?
Arizona deserves to be in this conversation.
Oh my God,
they look
Arizona.
so freaking good.
Oh God, I don't know now.
Change yours.
That division.
I'll change mine.
It's just like
Baltimore, Arizona
in the playoffs. Arizona against Tampa Bay.
Could you imagine that as a Super Bowl? Baltimore.
Yeah,
Arizona?
I'll go Baltimore, Arizona. That sounds like my dream.
So much fun.
My dream. Super Bowl match.
You know what? Outside of the LA versus LA in LA, Baltimore versus Arizona is like the most fun I think I could have with the Super Bowl. That sounds really, really awesome.
I feel like Bills are going to ruin it.
You know what? I think I'm going to change my answer. As much as I hate to do this, I was going to say Baltimore, Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to go Baltimore and the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Cowboys make it back to the Super Bowl.
Pinky Giants fan.
Trust me, I don't want that. But, man, they look good.
Gross.
They got the running game. They got the wide receivers. They got the defense.
Watch out, Cowboys Twitter. That is going to be something else if they make it.
We know they're getting in the playoffs.
If they go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, I'm deleting Twitter. I'm just kidding. No more.
Oh, my God.
Okay, guys, that is it for us this week. Make sure you tune in next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time for the FanDuel Sunday night recap. Until then, though, we are out of here. Everybody enjoy your Sunday night football. Adios, everyone.
Adios.